Alrighty, guys, welcome to this solo edition of the Rowdy Boys stream. I'm here doing a way too early season long fantasy draft. This is just for a standard ESPN full PPR 10 team league. I'm going to go ahead and go over a draft strategy for you guys just so you can get a good idea, follow along with what I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to accomplish as we go through the draft. We got about 2 minutes before we start up, and then we'll have a minute after that or so before we get drafted. So just to start off, when you're in your first through fourth rounds, what you're trying to look for is your high floors and your high ceilings. Um, what I mean by that is your super explosive players. So I mean everybody who's going to be competing for number one overall. Here I've got listed for personal favorites of mine in the first round. You can't miss Bijan, Jameer Gibbs, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Christian McCaffrey, JSN, and Jonathan Taylor. If you have a 1-1, any of those guys are going to hit. And the early trends I'm noticing right now, I've done about 5 drafts to this point in time. Those guys are all going in the range between 1-1 and 1-9. CeeDee Lamb, I think, is the one who's fallen the furthest. Latest he's been drafted, though, is at 2-2. So, like I said, it's a lot of bang for your buck. As you go along, obviously, in the second and third rounds and the fourth rounds, you're not going to have those guys available. What I am noticing is you'll have guys like Justin Jefferson available in the early second round. Josh Jacobs will fall anywhere into the middle third, so you'll still have a lot of good value at that time. And Drake London, who I like out of Atlanta, to have a good season. He's fallen to about middle third rounds right now. I'm noticing him being taken. The earliest was at 2-3, the latest at 3-6, but he's falling in that about 2-10, 2-8 range. So it's good value there. What I am also noticing right now is Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are starting to go in the third and fourth rounds. So if you're looking for those guys, you're going to have to start looking for them early. My recommendation is that there are quarterbacks later on in the draft that you should be able to look at. You have really no reason to go after guys early unless they're just, your guy and you want to get after them. As you go along into the 5th through 9th round, we're going to be looking for the dudes who just are really consistent. Oh, good for us. We drew the 1-1 on this one. I don't have any drafts where I have Bijan yet, so I'm going to go ahead and take him up. And then I'm not going to pick for a long time, so I'll have a long little while to go over the rest of the draft strategy we want to do. Getting back into it, your 5th through 9th picks, like you in that range, you're going to want to be looking for the guys who give you consistent floor and have the opportunity for high ceilings when circumstances are in their favor. So, like if a matchup is just really nice for them, or if an injury happens, then they get a bigger workload. You're going to want to be able to put those guys on the roster early. Who I like in that range, Devontae Smith, I'm noticing is falling to as late as 5-5, but he's going in about the mid fours, the 4-10, 4-1, and then he was taken as early as 3-1 in one of my drafts. Cam Scadaboo, who I think could have a really good season if he's not injured, and I like a lot of what New York's done offensively. I think that they're going to take a step forward, and if Scat's healthy all season long, I think he's going to have a really good one. Another name I like, Nico Collins. He's, again, just a dude who's on a really solid offense. I think he can take a step forward this year. Produced really well. Having another year with the quarterback doesn't hurt at all. I like Kenny Walker a lot. The move to Kansas City, I think, is going to help both him and the team. They're going to be really successful in what they're trying to do, which is a ground game and have Mahomes run off the play action. I think they'll be pretty successful doing a lot of that. Garrett Wilson, I'm noticing, is falling in the 4th round, and I don't I really don't know what to think about the Jets offense as a whole, but I do know that he's been a really consistent fantasy producer for the last few seasons. So I definitely like him in that range to be able to give you a good floor and have a high ceiling game every now and then. Another name I'm noticing fall pretty far in drafts that's surprising me is T. Higgins from Cincinnati. The earliest I've seen him go is at 4.2, and the latest I've seen him go is at 6.9. And the mid, I'm noticing the average is about the mid fives. We can go ahead and get this stuff out of the way. Suspense over. Bijan Robinson, welcome to the stream team. Alrighty, guys. So that's what I like in those middle ranges. What we're looking for as we get into the later parts of the draft, your mid to late parts, specifically the 10th through the 13th rounds, we're going to be looking for just ways to fill up the roster. This is going to include handcuff players. So if you drafted a running back or a receiver who's injury prone at the top of the draft, you're going to want to start looking for their backups, um, just in case they do get the injury. And if they don't, then you can drop them week 3. There's no harm done. I guess that ruins the point of a handcuff, though, huh? Never mind. Keep them. Throughout that point, you're going to want to be looking to fill up the roster in a certain point. You're going to want to go running back heavy. I'm noticing early on. And that means like if you have the first, like a really good first overall, you're going to want to go running back. But if the guys like CMC, Jonathan Taylor, and Bijan Jameer are all off the board, there's no harm in going receiver with your first 2 picks and then trying to get guys in like the Javonte Williams range later on. Conversely, if you have good picks really early in the draft and you've got running backs that line up with what you're trying to do, specifically for me, who I really like with the 1-1 is Bijan or Jameer Gibbs. You'll not miss either way. If you've got middle ones, you'll want to look for McCaffrey and Taylor. And that's if you want to go running back first. If you want to go running back second round, who I'm noticing fall is you'll see him here on the screen actually. Jeremiah Love and James Cook. Both I think are going to have pretty good value. See Love right off the board at the end of the first round. Taylor too, dang. All right, so it looks like running backs are going to be going in abundance. Hopefully there's not a scarcity in the middle of the draft of them. Because then it's just a slew of receivers, and that looks ugly when that happens. All right. So like I said, you're just looking for ways to fill in the roster at the end of those middle rounds there. You might want to be looking for some mid-round flyers. I have a few late ones that I like, but some mid-round gems that I'm looking at is Terry McLaurin. I think he'll have a really good season, a lot of yards, a lot of usage out in Washington. Devontae Adams, I assume that he and Stafford are going to come back pretty good, pretty healthy, pretty solid. Another year working together. I can't imagine the touchdown numbers will stay at the level that they did last year, but I don't imagine that they'll dip very far either. I like Igbuka out of Tampa Bay as well. I think Baker coming back fully healthy is going to be really good for that offense. I like a lot of what they did in the draft in the offseason, so we'll see how that goes for him. But he's going pretty much in the 5th round in every single draft. Every draft I've done, he's gone in the 5th round. Another one of those running backs I was talking about earlier that you can wait on if you just happen to miss out on the big ones early. You can wait on Keyshawn Judkins out of Cleveland, and he's going anywhere between the 5th and 6th rounds so far. Jadarian Price out of Seattle, he's a rookie. And I mean, with rookie running backs, we don't really always know what to expect, but he is going through a really good situation with an offense that needed a good lead back. And I think he'll be solid for him there. All right, you guys, looking at this range. There's GNT if we want to go running back, Nico Collins if we want to go receiver. I'm seeing Brock Bowers here, and that's actually been a pretty popular 3rd round pick. I want no part of it. I'm going to be a little safe and go with George Pickens. Even if he doesn't end up in Dallas, he's going to be safe regardless where he ends up. He'll get some production. Ooh, that's nice. The 110 back to back 10-1, however you want to look at it. I think we'll go receiver again. I like AJ Brown to produce. I know he's rumored to be traded uh, post June 1st. But regardless of where he ends up, he's going to have a really productive season. A lot of yards, a lot of catches, a lot of touchdowns. I mean, the PPR, that all matters. Getting back to your mid round gems, guys you can wait on if you miss a guy early that you really liked. There's David Montgomery out of Houston. My brother and I really like him to have a lot of touchdowns this year. We just think the Houston offense is going to be pretty solid. And that Montgomery is going to be a pretty he's going to be a recipient of that as far as goal line carries goes. Just a lot of opportunity for touchdowns, we think. Then there's Javonte Williams in Dallas, and he's going anywhere between the third and the fifth rounds. So if he's your guy, you're going to want to jump on him pretty quick. Um, but if he's not, you should be good to get a few late round flyers at the end of the draft who can, I don't think, produce as consistently as he does, but the fantasy numbers at the end of the season will probably look a little similar just because of the pop ratio that these other guys will have. Like in Aaron Jones, I think he has a few 20, 25-point games in his arsenal. If Mason's not playing with him, Rico Dowdle's same. If Warren's out, he'll be able to get a pretty good, solid production out of him. Gainwell, Tampa Bay, similar situation. If Bucky Irving misses any time, he'll be able to have a few really solid games. Brian Robinson in Atlanta, I like him to be able to have a pretty good season. Just as I mean, he's a handcuff for sure, but I do like him to be able to have a solid season behind a somewhat revamped offense. We'll see how it goes. But I know the running back for Atlanta will have a good season either way, and whoever's playing will have a good game. Um, I do like also out of Philly, Tank Bigsby. Troy's pretty high on this guy for a lot of best balls, just because if Saquon does miss any time, the running back for Philly will have a good game. And to our knowledge at this point, again, this is a way too early draft. So take a lot of this with a grain of salt, barring any injuries, or I mean, if a guy's just not that good, it all changes, you know. But for right now, Tank Bigsby's the handcuff we like out of Philly. So if you get Saquon early in the draft, you might want to be looking for him later. Um, then we've got going into our fourth round pick. We got a few picks here, so we got a little time. The last few rounds of the draft, you're really just kind of looking for. There's no better way to say this. You're going gold mining in a coal mine. You you know you're not going to succeed, but you're going to try anyway. So you're looking for dudes who just, if the right situation happens, that they're going to explode, or just guys that not a lot of people are sold on that you believe are going to have a really solid season and have those gem games. And I don't know, maybe you just know that a certain player is not going to succeed in a situation, and you know his backup's going to get the opportunities, something like that. You're looking for that. I don't know if you'll find it. Good luck. But I know that a lot of the guys that I wind up drafting in the last three rounds, I usually wind up dropping by week two or three just to get somebody who's a little more solid. Few picks coming up. Some of the guys I like coming off. Kenny Walker's off. Garrett Wilson's off. Nico Collins already been taken. Javonte again going here, round four, pick four. Ooh, this guy's got Brees Hall. I like that pickup a lot. I think he'll have a really good season for the Jets. A lot of opportunity out there. Coming up to our picks back to back. We've got Devontae Smith on the board, Devontae Adams on like both those names. And if AJ Brown does get traded out of Philly, Devontae's volume will probably take an uptick. I know everybody's excited about the Eagles receiving core, regardless where AJ Brown is. Do we like Jalen Hurts enough to take him at this pick? I'm not reaching on him. His average draft position's around this area, but I don't know. For sure, we're gonna go Devonte Smith. I like that. Seems like a pretty good dude anytime he's on camera too. So no issues putting him on the roster. Um, let's see. Do we want to go running back? We do need a running back. We can go Bucky Irving or Keyshawn Jenkins. I don't have any Bucky Irving stock. Let's go ahead and go Bucky Irving. And what we'll try to do later on in the draft is get that Kenny Gainwell handcuff that I was talking about. Put it in action for you guys. Um. All right. There's nothing to do but wait right now. So what I am noticing, there's a really weird trend of tight ends being drafted really early, especially in the leagues that are quote unquote described as a pro league. Uh, Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren, and TJ McBride are all being taken as early as 2-8. Um, I'm not sold on it. I think there are tight ends that you can take later on in the draft. We'll get into that a little later. Um, but it's happening progressively more and more in these quote unquote pro drafts that ESPN offers. So I guess the more experienced players are saying, analytics be damned, I'm going to go get my guy now. Those are good names to have, I guess. Like, can't miss on the production. They do produce wide receiver one numbers, and I guess that is wide receiver one range. But I don't know, not my bag. All right, so I won't be drafting again until the end of the sixth round. So we'll go ahead and look at some names that I like in that range. I don't know if I'm going to have opportunities to get them, but I do like Ibuka. We'll go ahead and queue him up. Like Jamison Williams a lot. We'll queue him up. Um, I doubt he'll fall to us, but if he does, I'll like Keyshawn in this range. Keyshawn? I'm sorry, I got a nasal thing right now. Ah, all right. Oof. And we kind of hit this range of receivers like DJ Moore. You just kind of don't know what to expect. Brome, you don't know what to expect. Pittman, you don't know what to expect because the QB play could be good, could not be good. We have no idea what we're going to get out of Daniel Jones this year. Harrison, apparently somebody believes in him. Looks like. Yep, there he is. Round 5, pick 9. Um, I'm not sold on him, but I do think that the Arizona offense is going to get a lot better this year. So he's going to definitely be a benefactor of all that. I'm kind of surprised to see Tyler Warren still on the board. That is a trend that I'm noticing is that he's actually getting drafted in the third round, most drafts, and he's fallen to the sixth here. Um, I guess the situation in Indianapolis isn't something that a lot of people want. Oh, my bad on Michael Pittman, guys. I think I said Indy. Um, well, it's really the same thing in Pittsburgh. We don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be right now. Last I checked, all signs were pointing to Aaron Rodgers, but we'll see what's going down there later on. Let's see, we got in this range. You know what it looks like at this point in time? One of these guys is going to fall to us. So hopefully we can get anyone here. I like Keyshawn the most. If he plays 17 games, I think he's going to have a fantastic season. I mean, even if he doesn't, I think he's still going to have over 1,000 yards if he plays over 10 games. You know what I mean? I think he's going to have a really good year. He's super talented. Offensive line's all right out there. I guess depending on what they do at quarterback. Somebody's been hearing me talk about him. They took him. All right. So with oh lordy. So with these two receivers here, I'm pretty confident with Emeka or Jamison Williams if either one of them falls to us. I like T, Terry, and Ladd all to have really solid years. I just think that with the Mike Evans departure out in Tampa Bay and the rapport that Baker and Emeka showed last year, That'll probably take a step forward. I think really all the pass catchers out in Tampa Bay are going to see an uptick without having Mike Evans in the system. Lord knows I missed him. I love Mike Evans on the Buccaneers. All right. Um, Down in the Slater range. So the reason I was suggesting go, there we go. People heard me talking about Emeka. They took him too. I bet they're going to take Jameson. They looked at my queue and they took all the dudes. Oh, they took Cortland Sutton. All right. So I am going to take Jameson Williams in this range. I like the Detroit offense this year. I think Jared Goff's going to have a really solid season. I like him to produce really well in the regular season. It gets you a fantasy championship. You know what I'm talking about? The middle rounds is where you get your guys, get these dudes who are just going to keep you afloat in the middle of the season. All right. So it's definitely way too early in this way too early draft to be looking at quarterback. But when I do, this is a really solid range of guys. Shockingly enough, they all do come with a bit of injury concern. Oh, I'm on the clock. We are going to take. It's not good. I got so locked into the explanation. I'm going to go with T. Higgins. I don't have a lot of T. Higgins in any of my drafts, and I want to be able to keep track of him this year. This is an easy way to do that. Take him in an early draft. Some picks I love from these guys here. Jadarian Price. I think he's going to have a good year. I talked about it earlier. You don't know what to expect from rookie running backs, but I think he's in the best situation as far as they go. Judkins, I love the Judkins. And Buka, I already talked about him. What's interesting, we're seeing a defense being taken in round 7, and it's not surprising. This is something I've seen pretty often every year. Somebody reaches on a defense, but it's because they think that they're going to get like a wide receiver 1 production out of a defense. And every year one defense does do that. Maybe they got him this year. But I'm not a fan of doing that. I think there are a lot of really good defenses at the end of the draft everybody can wait on. Well, I guess not everybody, but there's 5 of them, so at least half the league can wait on a defense. Picks I don't like in this draft, Kyle Pitts being taken in round 7. Although I am seeing that be the trend. People got disenchanted for sure. They've been burned too many times, I guess. But now they're still taking him in the 7th round. I'd wait for him. If you can get him in the 10th, that's a good one. But I don't like him in the 7th. I don't think he's going to win you a championship. And if you're drafting a tight end that early, it's because you think he's going to be a big part of a championship. I do like this Dallas Goedert pick. I think he'll be a part of a championship team, just not in this league. I'm planning on winning this league. Sorry, Thunder and Hooters. With the power of the stream behind me, we shall win this league. Unless everybody gets injured, and then we've got no chance. But we'll find out how it goes. All right, it looks like in our pick range, we're going to be stuck with receivers. Just kidding. We can actually look at a quarterback, and I was talking about it. This range right here with Brock Purdy, Trevor Lawrence, and Dak Prescott. I think if all of them play 17 games, they're going to have pretty phenomenal years. Dak in particular, I'm pretty sold on just because, well, 1, I'm a Cowboys fan, and 2, I've kind of watched him be pretty elite for a few seasons now. And I don't think that that's going to fall off unless an injury happens, which has happened in the past. Brock Purdy, same story. I think he's going to be really good if he plays all 17. And Trevor Lawrence, I think, is going to have a really, really good year with a lot of weapons on offense. I think he'll be able to keep up that solid play from last season, carry on some momentum. All right, so we've already got 2 receivers stashed on the bench. So We need to go quarterback, running back here. And lo and behold, fate is on our side. We are going Dak Prescott and Kenneth Gainwell to get that handcuff we wanted to Bucky Irving earlier. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Kenneth Gainwell is going to have a decent role in the offense in and of himself. I think he's going to be able to add a lot of value on his own pick, even if you don't get that Bucky Irving handcuff. I just think it's a good strategy to have two really solid running backs from the same team on your roster. Um, we're not going to get any of these guys. Like they're literally just not going to fall to us. This will probably be about where we start picking again in this range here. And this is what I was talking about earlier. You're going to be able to get really good tight end production later on in the drafts. Um, Jake Ferguson's available. I actually think Travis Kelsey just got taken, like in the last round. Actually, he might still be available. Yeah. Okay. He is. So we're in a quote unquote experience draft. That's just what ESPN settings are. Um, and we're seeing two really solid tight ends in Fannin and Kelsey fall to the ninth round, maybe even the 10th round, depending on what people's priorities are here. We're seeing Jake Ferguson fall, and that's pretty consistent with what I've been noticing. I've got these guys marked. Kelsey's going anywhere between the eighth and ninth. Ferguson anywhere between the ninth and 11th. Goddard, this was the earliest I think I've seen him get drafted in the seventh round. He's going anywhere between there and the 11th. Fannin, he's going anywhere between 7 and 8, but in this one, he fell kind of far. I'm pretty sure he's still available. Let's just go ahead and get these tight ends up out of the way. Yeah, still available. Which is not at all consistent with what I've been seeing. He's been drafted pretty early, along with Laporta, who I think has been taken. Yeah, he's off the board. Um, yeah, Laporta and Fannin are going in those middle rounds. Those names I mentioned earlier with Warren, Bowers, and McBride are all going really early. So if you like those guys, you got to get them early. If you like to just get really solid production out of your tight ends, this range will get you pretty nice. I mean, look at this. We still got Mark Andrews, Tucker Kraft, George Kittle, likely who forgive the pun, is likely going to have a pretty good season with the Giants. I don't know much about Aronda Gadsden, but I know a lot of people are sold on his production value or his production upside with the Chargers this season. Um, just anyway, the point being, there's a lot of really solid tight ends for you guys to be able to look at later on in the draft if you don't feel like reaching for one in the third round. Our pick is coming up pretty rapidly, so what we are going to do is head back here. What do we need? A tight end. So we like Fannin. I like Fannin. I don't know if you guys do, but I do. Dang, I like Wandale. I like Wandale in this range a lot. I don't know if I want to pick him with my next pick though, because I've already loaded up on receivers. To be honest, no, they took my boy Harold Fannin. He's gone. That's okay. Go ahead and look at one of those other tight ends that I listed because there's like 10 of them. If anybody knows what to think of Alvin Kamara this year, let me know. If he's even playing. I hope he does. More than anything, just because I like to see him play. He's fun. Let's see. The Bird Man, he's still on the board. I think I kind of created a little panic in the middle position quarterbacks when I took Dak at the rate that I did. Nah, actually, dang. All right, so you're going to be able to sit on quarterbacks for a little while if you don't want to take one of these guys early. I'm sold on Dak. I think he's going to have a fantastic season, so I took him when I had to, just to make sure I could get my guy. Not picking for 19 picks and all. Um, you can wait on. I mean, Caleb Williams. He's going to have a really good year. Mahomes, if he plays all 17, I don't know when he's coming back. And I don't know what it'll look like when he does, but I know he's going to have a pretty solid season. Somebody else believes it too because they just ripped him off the board. I like Herbert in this range. I like Daniel Jones. So you can wait on quarterbacks. There's no rush to get your guys unless you just really, really want them. And right now, what I need is a tight end. And I'm going with Jake Ferguson. We're going to do it. We're gonna take- Now, I'm going to need a little second on this one because I don't really like anyone in this range because it's all receivers and then Aaron Jones. I'd like Aaron Jones if I had taken Jordan Mason, but I did not. Did not do that. I do want to go running back with this pick, though. Oh, no. All right. That's not a great list of running backs, guys. It's a lot of handcuffs. All right. Well, I think Aaron Jones is going to have the best out of all these handcuffs. So we're going to go with him and hope that doesn't bite me later on. Yeah, we'll be fine. Okay, good. Mason's still here. I don't think he'll fall to us, but because I did get Jones, people might be a little disenchanted of picking him up. Oh, dang. I like that Rico Dowdle pick. I think he'll have a really good year. See, there we go. George Kittle in the 11th round, guys. You don't need to get a tight end early. You can wait on him. Don't panic. There'll be a good one later on. The same cannot be said for running backs. Everything at this point in the draft is a handcuff. You got to get your guy early. The receivers, even check this one out, man. We got Christian Watson and Wandale Robinson, who I believe are both going to have really solid years. I like Tennessee's offense overall. And as much as it pains me to say it, being a Cowboys fan, I like Green Bay's as well. Um, they're going to be super productive, and these guys will be heavily involved in their teams for sure. I like Makai Lemon in this range. He's a bit of a wild card, though. Rookie receivers, you absolutely don't know what to expect from. You know, one of them's going to break out and be the most amazing guy ever, but you know there are going to be a few that just flop pretty hard. And seeing as he plays for Philly, I hope he flops, but for the sake of football, I hope he's good because that's just good for the league. I like Khalil Shakir a lot to be involved in his offense. Same with Matthew Golden. I don't really know what to think about the Green Bay offense. I like it as a whole, and I think both Watson and Golden will be recipients of that. But I don't know if I think they'll eat into each other's production a little bit. Um, this is just a bad range, man. You kind of hope all these guys get drafted so you don't have to take any of them. Might get lucky. They might just do that for us. With our next picks, though, we do got to round out the starting lineup with just three bench players left. You don't really have to load up on any of these guys left. You want to start looking for actual value for your lineup. And this is what's going to allow you to get those ridiculously high games. Those that dude in your league that you just hate who scores all the points. You're going to be that guy because you drafted your defense and your kicker in the 12th and 13th round instead of waiting for the 15th and the 16th round. And now you've got to stream kickers and defenses all season long. You want to get season long starters, not early, but not late either. Like I said, it's roster needs at this point in time. And your roster needs a kicker and your roster needs a defense, or you're going to lose the championship. It's going to happen. Now, what we're hoping for is the Browns. You know what? I've got a lot of Browns stock. I'm going to go ahead and try to look at some other defenses, but I like the Rams a lot, and it's going to be a wild card. And you guys are going to be like, "Oh, he's biased because he's a Cowboys fan." I am, but they also did make a lot of moves this offseason that I think, going back even to last season with the additions of Kenny Clark, Quentin Williams. And then this season, bringing in Caleb Downs in the draft. I don't know if they really addressed the defensive back position outside of the safety. Cornerback might need a little work. Maybe the guys just needed to get healthy. We'll find out. But there's a lot of excitement around Christian Parker. I'm a huge fan of what Schottenheimer did in his first year, kind of bringing it like taking on a roster that really wasn't ready to win anything anyway, and still doing some really good stuff, giving a lot of people a lot of things to cheer about. But with the additions this year, I think the Dallas defense they're going to blow away this projected 67 points. They'll probably score anywhere between 100 and 120. Um, don't plan on them looking perfect. Don't even plan on them looking good for a lot of the season. Just plan on them looking improved from last year, which isn't hard, but still, they're going to improve from last year. They're going to put out a pretty decent fantasy showing. From what I remember last year, they put up something like 70 something points, um, and they only got better. Oh, Lordy, that can't be right. Did the Dolphins actually outscore the Cowboys? They did. All right, so we're going to draft the Dallas defense here. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. Um, we're we're gonna. Dang, I know I got Cleveland everywhere, but we're gonna go with Cleveland, and this is just because they don't play in the strongest division as far as offenses are concerned, and they're included in that list. Um, but they're gonna have a really good defensive year, I think. A lot of improvements on the offensive end too, which will allow them to stay rested. I don't know if they'll score a lot of points, but they'll at least be on the field for a few more minutes than they were last year. See, kickers, I like all these guys. I like Cam Little to have a really good year. I like Kamai. I'm not going to even try his first name, to be honest. I like Fairbairn out of Houston, and I like Myers a lot just because they prove that they can make field goals at a consistent clip, and they're in offenses that are really exciting. You don't get Brandon Aubrey early. You can wait to get one of these guys a little later. And when I say a little later, I mean just a little later. You do got to draft a good kicker. You're going to lose if you don't draft a good kicker. And don't come at me like, oh, I won without a good kicker 1 year. Yeah, I know outliers happen. This is a pretty general strategy for people who just want to win championships consistently. All right, so we got our kicker, we got our defense. We don't need to look at them again until our bye weeks. And because the schedule hasn't even been released yet, we don't know who we're going to want. Dang, I'm kind of surprised. Actually, I'm surprised Makai Lemon and Khalil Shakir both fell this far. I am surprised that Algier was drafted, but I hope that it was by the dude who drafted Jeremiah Love because it's gonna. I just don't see any value in the pick unless Jeremiah Love is a complete and total flop or he gets hurt or whatever happens. I don't think any of that's gonna happen. That's interesting. See another example of this. You can wait on tight ends. We got T.J. Hawkinson going in the 13th round, and that's actually pretty consistent. He's going anywhere between the 11th and the 15th. There's even out of Buffalo, Dalton Kincaid went undrafted in my last draft, and the earliest he's been drafted to this point in time is the 14th round. There's just a ton of value in the tight end position late in the draft. So again, I don't see the logic in reaching for the Bowers, the Warren, or the McBrides when there is just a lot of really good value in the position later on. Let's see, I've got about 10, 11 picks before my next pick. 12, if you count the one on the clock. Which means we're not going to have anybody in this range probably. And that's good because you don't want anybody in this range. Right now, we're just trying to fill up the bench with players that we believe are going to have value for us later on. Because we drafted Aaron Jones, we do also want to draft Jordan Mason if we can get him. Um, Definitely don't want to reach on that though. But at pick 140, there's really no such thing as reaching, is there? You're just kind of drafting who you think cannot be terrible. I do like Pacheco and Brian Robinson. The problem is they are both handcuff backs. I don't like anything about James Conner this year. I think that backfield has too many mouths to feed before he's going to get any consideration. Um, how many running backs do we even have? All right, so if we take Jordan Mason, we can kind of leave the running back position alone. Then we'll want to get a backup tight end and a backup quarterback. Now, a strategy that I've become fond of in the last couple of years is instead of going two quarterbacks and two tight ends, you go one quarterback, one tight end, the way that you would with your defense and your kicker. And on your bye weeks, you just stream guys. If your quarterback winds up sucking, you just drop them, or gets hurt, you just drop them. Same with the tight end. Um, but you could go the streaming route with those four positions if your running backs and receivers are strong enough. Just look for quarterbacks with easy matchups, kickers with favorable matchups, defenses that are playing teams like the Browns. And the Dolphins, I guess, are on that list, but we'll see how Malik Willis does. There's just really not a strong supporting cast in Miami right now. So regardless of how good he is, I just don't expect good things. So AFC East defenses are streaming options for you any week of the season. Same with AFC North ones. It's like I said, with those four positions, you can kind of run that strategy if you want to beef up on the receivers and running backs. It's just not the worst thing in the world. But the thing is, running backs, there's just not a whole lot of beefing up to do. Unless you can get guys at the top of the draft, there's really just not a lot here at the bottom. Everybody is super dependent on the starter not being good or being hurt. That being said, we do have a starter on our roster who does get hurt. We both of them go ahead and get our handcuff there. And we can leave that position alone. We'll go ahead and go with the quarterback for now because I think that's the more valuable position. Now, this roster, I mean, sometimes what you want to look for um, without having the schedule release, it's kind of hard to draft quarterbacks with a backup quarterback, to be honest. So we're going to go ahead and go with the guy we just think is, high floor and can have some really good matchups, some really nice matchups for them to have a one 30-point game on the season, 2 30-point games on the season. Um, and a few quarterbacks I like to have that happen are Baker, Cam Ward, Sam Darnold, and CJ Stroud, all of whom could have good stuff. I'm going to go Cam Ward here. I'm a big fan of the guy. I think Tennessee did a lot of really good things on offense, so I want to keep track of that. And in the way too early draft, it's a good time to take a flyer like him. Speaking of flyers, let's get into my late round ones. I think you'll be able to take guys like, and what I mean by late round flyers is, I mean, if the situation becomes favorable for them, what they're going to do is turn into just, fantasy gems. You're going to find them late in the draft. Nobody's going to expect them to turn up, or people are hating on them for whatever reason, or people just aren't looking for them in any way. I like Xavier Worthy out of Kansas City, and that's kind of a trendy pick off the top. Just speedster in Kansas City. Oh, he's the next Tyreek Hill. No, whatever. I think he's just going to have a really solid season. I think they did a lot of things on both offense and defense to improve the team. If Mahomes is healthy, then he's going to have a lot of volume, and I think that he's going to take a step forward and do something really nice this year for a late round guy anyway. I like Calvin Ridley out of Tennessee. I think again, the Titans did a lot of really good things to improve their offense, surround Cam Ward with some good talent. I think Calvin Ridley, if he kind of figures out his drop problems, could start getting fed the ball a lot. He does have a lot of upside if he can figure that out. I like Josh Downs. We can actually see him right here. He's ranked 108, but there are a lot of drafts he's going undrafted. I don't really know what to expect out of the Indy quarterback situation, but I don't think he's quarterback proof, but I do think he can have anywhere between 8 to 15 points on any given week. And if things go right for him, he could be a 20-point scorer. You know what I mean? Um, I drafted him as the handcuff earlier to Aaron Jones. I guess they're handcuffs to each other, so they both fall into this category of late round flyers. You can get both of them in the 13th through 16th. Oh, damn, I get to pick Mr. Irrelevant today, but I promise you he's not going to be irrelevant. This will be the reason that we win a championship. Whoever I draft here will win us a championship. I think it has to be Tucker Kraft. You know what? We are not going tight end with Mr. Irrelevant. Um, getting back into it rather. I like guys like Jerry Judy, Ryan Flournoy, Rashid Shaheed, and Coker out of Carolina. Not a lot of people are talking about him, but I think he'll take a step forward. These are guys just with if something goes their way, like an injury or a guy just not being very good, they immediately become way more heavily involved into some offenses that are already pretty exciting. Uh, and to add on to that Carolina list, Jonathan Brooks, I think he's going to have a pretty good season working behind. I think it's DJ Moore this year. No, it's not DJ Moore anymore. He's in Buffalo. And to be honest, I don't know who Carolina's wide receiver one is off the top of my head. McMillan was the earliest one off the board. All right. So apparently there's going to be a lot of open opportunity in Carolina as far as who wide receiver one is, unless I just don't know anything about McMillan and he's actually just like a super stud. I hope that's not the case because I buy into Carolina backup. Here we go, Mr. Irrelevant. Who are you for us today? Kyler Murray, welcome on. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want Kyler Murray. I like Josh Downs. I think he's going to have a good few games. I already spoke on Calvin Ridley, same thing. Jerry Judy, I like him a lot. I don't know about Houston's lower tier wide receivers, though. Could go Brian Robinson to get just, I mean, we'd be rounding out like handcuff city, you know what I mean? I'd like a receiver anyway. Let's go ahead and go Josh Downs. I'm a Cowboys fan. Caleb plays for my real fan, my real team. We'll have Josh Downs play for my fantasy team. Complete the familial cycle. All right. So go ahead and look at the team that we got here. Uh, I mean, I'm a little biased. I think I'm going to win every fantasy league I'm ever entered in, and I win a lot of them, so it's not unfounded. Uh, but I like our roster. I like our roster from top to bottom, starting with Dak at the top. If he plays all 17, I think this is a no-brainer. You can draft him anywhere. Like I'm going to make fun of you if you do it, but I've seen him be drafted as early as the third round. I think he'll score that many points to justify that level of pick. I'll still make fun of you for doing it, but I'll get it. I'll get it. You draft him anywhere between the fourth and eighth, ninth round, he'll probably be sitting there. Bijan, it's about as no brainer as it gets. The dude's going to be really involved in the pass game and the run game. Last year, he scored over 300 fantasy points. He's projected to do the same for this year. I actually think he scored over like 350, somewhere around 370. Let's just go ahead and check that out. My bad. He did. He scored 370. All right. But so looking at last year's numbers, a lot of these guys performed really well. Bucky Irving, I like him to play a little bit more this year than he did last year. I like Tampa Bay's offense to get improved, to have improved overall. So I think that number will come up from 138 and justify the draft positioning that we took him at. George Pickens, fantastic season last year for the Cowboys. No reason to expect anything else. Um, I understand everybody's like concerns with George Pickens' contract and all that stuff, but Jerry Jones does like to play the drama role sometimes. So they might have already worked something out and they're just sitting on it for a little bit. We'll see. I'm not sure. But either way, even if he's not in Dallas, if he is in Dallas, he's going to have a really good year either way. He's going anywhere in the second to third rounds, so you got to jump on him quick. But he's worth the price tag for sure. AJ Brown, I'm a big fan of AJ Brown. He's projected to end up in New England right now, from the last report that I heard. But even if he stays in Philly, this guy's going to be pretty fantastic regardless of where he goes. So be a big body target in the red zone. He's going to have a lot of volume in between the 20s as well. So no miss there. Jake Fergo is my personal favorite tight end in the draft, specifically because you can wait so long to draft him. You don't have to reach on the Bowers or the McBrides. You don't have to. I don't want to call it a reach on Kelsey if you're drafting him in the ninth round. That doesn't feel right. Future Hall of Famer and one of the greatest to ever do it. So you're not really reaching, but you can get Kelsey in the ninth. But if you want to wait on tight ends and beef up on the running backs and receivers like we did in this one, you can definitely wait for guys like Ferguson and Goddard, and you'll be all right. Again, you could even wait for Kraft, Isaiah Likely. You could wait for Hawkinson or Kincaid. All of them are going pretty late, and will give you solid value all season long. Hitting the flex position, we got Devontae Smith. I went receiver heavy pretty early on. Um, it's not a bad idea in a PPR. Guys are just going to produce pretty well, and I think, again, regardless of where A.J. Brown ends up, Devontae Smith is going to have a pretty solid season, just as he did last year. I think his numbers were actually on par with CeeDee Lamb's last year. I know CeeDee missed a few games, but still, if you're producing that much, Cowboys offense is good. You got to be good to keep up. And obviously, Devontae Smith is. I like the Browns defense pick here. With that 143 score last season, as you can see, they're putting up about RB2 numbers, wide receiver 3 numbers. So you want to be getting defenses that are going to give you weekly production. The streaming option is extremely viable. I've seen it win many a championship. I've used it to plenty of success myself. But I've had the most success getting a solidified defense in the middle late rounds. One I know that is going to be able to put up a weekly production number, set them and forget them. Let's pick somebody up on the bye week. We'll call it a day. Same with my kicker, the exact same situation. I like to get somebody who I know is going to have pretty solid numbers by the end of the year. The dude to get this year is Brandon Aubrey, but you have to draft him early. He's going so early in drafts. And I get it. He can kick a 70-yarder at any time. But you can wait, get the same level of production. In fact, I think Jason Myers outkicked him fantasy-wise last year. A little later. And then even if you don't want to reach on Jason Myers, who I drafted, I think, in the 13th or 14th round, you can wait and still get a kicker. You can also stream your kicker. You're not going to – no, when I take it back. And I said it earlier too. If you don't get a kicker that you can start week to week, you're going to lose your league. Your kicker is such an important position. I've actually seen kickers win the last week of the season, but I'll get into that maybe sometime down the line. Looking at the bench, it's a lot of really solid production out of our first 3 guys here with Jamison, T, and Kenneth Gainwell. Uh, and these are guys that you can pick up if you didn't want to go and reach on the CD Lamb earlier in the draft. If you didn't want to reach on Justin Jefferson or JSN or any of those guys at the top, you can wait, get somebody like Jamison T. Higgins who will put up fringe wide receiver one numbers. So long as you've got beefed up running backs, you can deal with that at the receiver position. I'd just like to have him on my bench because I'm greedy like that. Uh, Going down the line, running backs are all handcuffs. And that's not a bad thing because I think that the starters that were drafted up here are going to produce well enough for me to be able to just kind of get away with stashing this. Aaron Jones is a weekly starter just because you never know when he's going to have that 2 touchdown game. Unless he's playing the Cowboys, then you know for sure he's going to have that 2 touchdown game. Then you go with Jordan Mason, who can be a weekly plug and play if you need him there. I'm a fan of my Josh Downs pick, but it's only because it was the last pick of the draft. If I had picked him any earlier, I'd be really worried that I wasted the pick. Cam Ward, I think, is a guy who can give us production. Hopefully, he and Dak don't have the same bye week, but that is the issue. One of the biggest things that you deal with these way too early drafts is there is a good chance that you are going to end up with um, overlapping bye weeks where you can't really afford them. Going back to some of the trends that I'm noticing, just just early picks overall. If you get one of the first, you're 1-1. The only advice I can really give you is just get the guy that you're the most confident in. Um, the best example of this, I saw somebody take Malik Neighbors 1-1, and this was in a quote unquote experience draft. Like this guy, there was no time off the clock. He set up Malik Neighbors to be his first overall pick, and he was ready to buy it regardless of where he picked him. It's a perfect example of if you think that he's the dude who's going to make your team go get him. Um, that being said, the smart money's on like if you got a 1-1, 1-2, or 1-3, you're gonna want to look for the running backs who are gonna be catching the ball out of the backfield. Be super involved in all phases of the game, just because it's a full PPR, but they also have the rushing to give them all that extra boost. If you're not super in love, if you're in a full PPR and you like the running, or rather you like the wide receiver route, I don't think you can miss on Jamar Chase. I don't think you can miss on JSN. I don't think you can miss on CD Lamb. There are receivers that I am worried about at the top there. I know a lot of people are sold on guys like my bad, Amon Ra. And it's not that I'm not sold on Amon Ra to have a really fantastic season. It's that I'm not sold on him to have like 1-1 overall production. When you can get one of the two running backs, or you can get one of the receivers that are going to be around less mouths to feed. Detroit's just got a lot of people in the system who are going to command the ball. Jameer Gibbs, most namely. Um, so it is kind of hard to buy into him in the first round. But I mean, if he's your guy, go get him. I think he's going to have a really good season. I think he'll justify your faith in him. All right. Um, so that's what we've got there. And as far as all the trends I've noticed, it's really all I can think of is relevant this early on in the season. Again, not knowing the schedule, it makes it kind of hard. But this was a good way. I did want to get these draft strategies out there because going into when the schedule gets released, I'll do another one and we'll talk about how matchups at specific times of the year do affect who you're going to want to pick up. Um, but for now, if you are going to be crazy and do your draft before the schedule's released and before minicamp and all that stuff is started, it's a good way for you to be able to get a good win in your league. You're going to have all the bragging rights. and you're gonna have a lot of fun doing this stuff. Because I mean, you're not going for the boring names. You know what I mean? You can go and get some people who you believe are exciting, some people who you can sit and just be like, man, this one's gonna hit, and everybody's gonna see, and you're gonna look like a crazy mad scientist. But really, you just watched our stream and got good. All right, y'all. Again, for the solo edition of the Rowdy Boys stream, this has been Goo, and it's been a pleasure.